Tom, how are you? Welcome. What's different now, Tom, than when we first met and started talking over 10 years ago?
There has been a lot of change over the last 10 years, and I would say there are three words that explain what the major changes have been: consolidation in the healthcare industry, radiology technology, and then teleradiology or remote reading of studies. And let me go through each one of those. So from a consolidation standpoint, 10 years ago, there were a lot of independent hospitals that, had separate radiology groups servicing them, and they had no affiliation with other hospitals in their particular area. Also, there are many more payers that small payers that service different special groups of folks. And so since 10 years ago, there's been a massive consolidation of healthcare systems. We've got 4 healthcare systems that are national that control 2,000 of the hospitals around the country. And many of the regional community hospitals have grown dramatically. We have a number of groups that are 2-3 times the size they were 10 years ago because their health system acquired local hospitals and consolidated the particular area. And with payers, there's 4 major payers now across the country that control 30 to 40% of all the covered lives. And then if you add in Medicare and Medicaid, that's 2/3 to 3/4 of the entire population of the United States controlled by less people. And they just have a lot more leverage now. And so that leads groups, and I'll talk about that in a minute, to have to get larger to be able to have more leverage with payers, be able to cover their larger health systems. In the area of technology, largely 10 years ago, that wasn't an important factor for an independent radiology group. Generally, you'd rely on your health system. They provided the PACS, the dictation, all of that. But following the need to get bigger, radiology groups have had to invest in technology, specifically PACS systems, work lists, some artificial intelligence tools, and largely driven as you grow and you get to be 60 plus radiologists, you become a subspecialized group typically. And so then it's all about taking the facilities and the doctors and lining them up and getting the right study to the right doctor. And that takes some sophistication, because generally groups have doctors sitting all over the country. It isn't just around the hospitals anymore. And if you have a subspecialist that's servicing, 30 hospitals, you have to be able to funnel those studies, and it has to be very reliable, and it's a pretty sophisticated system. And then the final thing is technology. 10 years ago, people were doing preliminary reads. VRAD and Nighthawk started, and they do preliminary reads, and then in the morning, the radiology group get up and overread. And that was probably 5 to 10% of the studies. That had all shifted, almost all of it, to final reads. And about 15% of all studies were remote versus on-site. And then it jumped up to almost 50% during the pandemic. And it really hasn't gone back down much. Part of it is that hospitals are having a harder time justifying bringing radiologists back on site when they were serviced perfectly well in a remote setting. So teleradiology has become a crucial part of any group. And if you're a large group, it's a pretty, sophisticated and large operation, which would include an operations center that's kind of like the air traffic controllers, making sure it's all working 24/7. So anyway, those 3 things have led groups to consolidate. And if you go back 10 years, there was one group over 100 radiologists. Today there's 20, and people are predicting in the next 3 to 4 years, they're going to be 50. So the size of the groups, the number of large groups has changed dramatically, adjusting to what is happening in the industry. The one thing that hasn't changed is most everybody still wants to work for an independent group. Recent studies say 83% of all residents want to work for an independent group, not a hospital, not an academic setting, not a corporate group.